Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Today is Wednesday, August 22nd, 2018. Today we're going to be talking about what's up with Shanghai Gold Exchange withdrawals. I haven't updated the Smaulgld blog on the Shanghai Gold Exchange withdrawals. Quite interesting. We're going to get into that in a couple of minutes, but first let's take a look what's happening in the gold market. Gold closed at $11.94. Pretty much where it opened again for the day. So today and yesterday we've been at $11.94. Silver similar, although a bit of a decline. Silver closed yesterday around $14.74 and it closed today at $14.70. The dollar was essentially flat. The dollar index about 95.17. And the stock markets were pretty mixed. Dow Jones down 88 at 25,733. NASDAQ down up 29 at 78.89. And S&P with a slight decline of 1 point, and it's at 28.61. Now, during the day, we had some more fallout from the Cohen and Manafort pleas. Much ado about nothing, as yesterday I did a pretty long video on it, but I can summarize it within about 30 seconds. The Manafort and Cohen pleas, pretty much all of it had nothing to do with Trump or Russian collusion and everything to do with their own misbehavior, for which they were either found guilty or pled guilty. The only thing that's concerning, or at least somehow getting people excited, is that Cohen also pled guilty to campaign finance violation. And simply put, Cohen cannot plead guilty on behalf of Donald Trump. I think that his lawyer, Lanny Barker, whatever, Lanny Davis, was saying that Cohen pled guilty, and if he's guilty, then Trump is guilty. Doesn't necessarily follow. As I pointed out last night, and Mark Levin also made the same point, is when you have a plea, a guilty plea, that is not an adjudication. There's been no fact-finding. There's been no judge. There's been no jury. It's just he goes along with it and he says, I'm guilty of that. And also, on the facts of it, a payment to a third party is not necessarily a reportable, quote, in-kind campaign contribution if it also serves another purpose. So the facts on this case are if Trump made a payment to Stormy Daniels and it in effect helped the campaign, but it also was a good business decision and also helped him personally to keep it quiet so that his family wouldn't find out or damage his business, then it's very difficult to argue that it is solely an in-kind campaign contribution. And also, to have an FEC violation, you have to know it and you have to intend to break the law. So I doubt he even knows what the law is. So it's very hard to get him on that. And even so, an FEC violation is usually a civil matter, and there's a fine paid. So this is not some type of big smoking gun. Certainly not the stuff that people should be jumping up and down about. All right. Let's then also, the Fed minutes came out today, and there really wasn't much in them other than, I would say, they claim they're going to raise rates again probably in September as long as the economy continues at the pace that it is. And it looks like the GDP in the second quarter was 4.1. The Atlanta Fed Now GDP is saying that the GDP will be 4.3% in the third quarter, which is the current quarter, which would lead most market participants to say that they're going to raise rates in September and probably again in December. The only surprising thing I thought about the minutes was that they gave their outlook on what could help the economy and what could hurt it. And they said what could help the economy would be the tax cuts may lead their GDP or their economic outlook to be a bit stronger or more robust than they say it is. But then they seemed to be very concerned about the trade tensions, the tariffs, and they viewed all of that as negative, meaning that there could only negative things could come from the tariffs. We're seeing a little of that in the agricultural sector of the economy, but they mentioned nothing so far in the equity markets. But it is possible, I'm not predicting this, and I'm also not predicting gloom and doom, that if there continues to be trade tensions between the party and nothing gets parties, China, Europe, Mexico, Canada, what have you, they could continue, and that may not have a negative impact on the economy. Indeed, it could have a positive impact on the economy. So no one knows, but it seems that the Fed, all participants, all, not some on the Fed, but according to the minutes, all the Fed participants at the meeting were concerned that the tariffs and the trade tensions could maybe derail the economy. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what we got here. Good day, mate. Today is Thursday, August 23rd. Well, yeah, I guess you're ahead of the game there. ASMR people's clapping away. Carl Joseph DeMarco says, I always wonder why they haven't gone after Trump for his New York City mob connections. Yeah, anyone in New York City in the 80s is molto costa nostra. You would imagine that because they controlled the concrete. You had to deal with the mob, but dealing with the mob doesn't mean you were connected to the mob. I mean, if you bought pizza in a pizza parlor in the 80s, does that mean you were mobbed up because they were running heroin through those pizza parlors? So I'm sure they've looked at it. That's a good point. I'm just saying that it's probably pretty difficult to make a case. Giuliani's the one who made the case against the mafia. His enemies go after this fairy tale of collusion to get him. It's got to be a game meant to lose. They don't even want to hear about his mob connections. All right, let's now take a look at the Shanghai Gold Exchange withdrawals. As you know, I constantly point out that what the central banks are doing, Russia, that are buying gold, Russia, Turkey, and Kazakhstan, I view as largely irrelevant because of the amount that they're buying and that they're buying it from their own domestic supply. And so we've talked about Russia adding 200 tons, most they ever added in a year, 224 last year, and Kazakhstan buying about 40 tons a year, and Turkey about the same. But those amounts are small compared to the 4,100 tons of overall supply each year, of which about 3,300 tons of that supply are actual annual gold mining production. So I don't get excited about central banks are buying gold. That is all you need to know. It's not that much. I mentioned that India imports 900, 1,000 tons of gold, 3 times more than the central banks are buying gold. And that's a significant amount. It's important, but again, it's not the, it still doesn't move the needle. You know, we've seen how India can import massive amounts of gold in a particular year, and usually when they do import a lot of gold in a given year, it's usually a year in which the price is down, and then their purchases themselves don't boost the market back up, which highlights, which many have suspected, is that the market isn't necessarily driven by the physical supply-demand dynamics, but yet they get all excited when they hear that Russia's buying gold. I've never understood that. I guess it looks good, it sounds good, they know it's coming, but it really isn't. It just makes sense for Russia to buy gold as opposed to holding on to rubles, which are depreciating. I'm going to pull up the Shanghai gold numbers for you. Oh, I pulled up the Indian gold numbers. We don't need to see those. There we go. Shanghai Gold Exchange, and we'll get those numbers. I've done the charts. Tomorrow they'll be printed on the Smaulgld site. You can always go to the Smaulgld site after each video and take a look, and I add the source materials that we may have discussed during the podcast, and then you could check out the charts if there are any, or if I refer to any types of links, I put those in there as well. But all right, well, let's take a look now at the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Now, the thing about the Shanghai Gold Exchange, it is a market. It has been around since 2008, and it's a domestic market, and whatever is traded there stays in China. And there's two types of things. You can have gold withdrawn, or you can and you actually take it out of the system, or you can just have it moved around within the vaults that are approved. Coase Jansen has done a very good article on it explaining the mechanics of the Shanghai Gold Exchange. I'll try to dig that up and put it at the link below so you can check it out. Now, there's contracts on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, but there actually are far more deliveries. I'm going to find that chart as well. Far more deliveries of gold, or at least delivering it to a vault, than there are in the COMEX contracts. And that's why people say that the Shanghai Gold Exchange will, because it delivers more gold, it can wrest control over the price. That's not true, because of the notional value of contracts traded on COMEX are higher, meaning that the dollar value of the, quote, gold that's traded, even though gold isn't necessarily delivered in connection with the contract, it's greater. So there's a greater notional amount of gold traded, but more physical gold trades hands on the Shanghai Gold Exchange than does on the COMEX. And I'll get you that chart in a second as well. Well, I'll read them to you as I'm preparing the chart here. So in 2014, the COMEX gold deliveries were 85 tons for the entire year. And the COMEX gold deliveries in 2012 on the Shanghai Gold Exchange were about 2,100 tons. So you can see the massive difference. People that are on COMEX, they are not there to buy gold and have it delivered. They are there solely for the exposure to price. They're there to hedge their inventory. They're there to get price exposure. They, for the most part, they'll roll over their contracts without ever taking delivery. So it is clearly a paper market, and they trade billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of gold, and very little of it gets delivered. Same thing in 2015. Only 46 tons of gold, of gold delivered via COMEX from those COMEX vaults in 2015. In 2016, 222 tons were delivered. Now that seems like a lot, and 99 tons delivered in 2017. Now let's take a look at that chart. I've prepared it for you. And you'll see that there's a vast difference between the Shanghai Gold Exchange physical deliveries and the COMEX deliveries. And this year, we're seeing a very robust amount of deliveries as well. We're going to get into the precise numbers. All right, so there is your chart. You can see 2,000 tons delivered in 2014, 2,596 in 2015, 1,970 in 2016, and 2,030 in 2017. Now, one might say, well, it's a physical market. However, this is why I never believed the gold-backed yuan, gold exchangeable on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. It looks like a lot of gold is delivered, but it's really, it still stays in China. So it's not so much the gold is delivered, withdrawn, and then people go about their business. If you want to trade your gold, you have to keep it in China. So it's not as simple as the Chinese gold market is open, transparent. It's a physical market, and you can just go there and get gold, as the people were trying to say you could do under the gold-backed yuan game changer story. Not the case. And remember, once they realized, I pointed that out, and Coach Jansen pointed it out, they then changed their story to, oh, well, then the oil producers, they'll take their yuan and they'll go and buy gold from the London Bullion Exchange. They're going to drain London's gold, and they're going to go out and buy gold elsewhere with their yuan, which undermined their argument that the yuan was somehow a valuable international currency that was destined to crush the dollar, because they then said, well, no one's going to want the yuan, so they're going to buy gold with it, which made no sense. Because if oil-producing countries wanted gold, they can buy it today. They don't have to go through some convoluted yuan-denominated oils futures contract and then go buy gold with it. All right, let's take a look now at some of the other things that are happening on the Shanghai Gold Exchange this year. All right, so let's take a look first at this July's gold withdrawals. You can see them there. They are a little low for July, at least a little low since the last few years. So if you look at that chart, you'll see 137 tons withdrawn. It's not bad, but it's not a tremendous amount of gold. But it's still, in 1 month, 137 tons. Now remember, let's put that into context. Kazakhstan, 40 tons in a year. Russia, 200 tons, 224 tons in a year. On an off July, this July 2018, the Shanghai Gold Exchange is 137 tons. So relative to the 285 tons that were withdrawn in 2015, it's low, but still, in 1 month, in 2015, the Shanghai Gold Exchange delivered or had withdrawn more gold than the entire Russian central bank bought. So this is why I watched the Shanghai Gold Exchange numbers. So let's take a look at, I spelled Shanghai wrong there. I'll fix that. Let me make a note of that. It says Shanghai. All right. It'll be fixed in the blog post tomorrow. Let's take another look historically, though, of that's comparing July to July. Let's take a look at the monthly withdrawals. All right, here we go. And you can see ever since about 2013, they've been averaging, it looks like, about 150, 165, 170 each and every month. So it's clearly a robust market. You can see it. There's the one in 2015. I think that's at 285. That's July 2015. You can see there's months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 months since 2013 where they've delivered or had withdrawn over 200 tons. So this is a significant gold market. It's much more important to follow these numbers than it is whatever Russia manages to add from its gold mining supply. These are significant numbers, as are the Indian gold imports. And also, another day I'll cover the Chinese gold imports into from Hong Kong into China. Those are also significant. And also, whatever leaves Switzerland after they refine it, where it goes, those are significant numbers as well. All right, now let's take a look at another chart related to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Now this one is going to show prior years. Let's pull up that one. Bingo. All right. So now this one is going to show you the, is it showing up yet? Shanghai Gold Exchange annual withdrawals 2008 to 2018. And you can see the dramatic increase pretty much starting in 2013, where it looks like, other than 2016, every year over 2,000 tons. Now keep in mind, the annual global mining production, we saw those charts the other night, is around 3,200 tons. So a lot of the gold, at least on an annualized basis, they have traded or withdrawn on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Now, it's important to note, we hear a lot, and we've talked about this topic as well, but for those of you who are new, a lot of people put too much emphasis on the price of mining gold today, or the cost of mining gold today versus the price. And they keep saying that if the mining costs become as expensive as the cost of the price of gold, they'll stop and there'll be a shortage. That's not true, because as we've seen, the average cost right now is still far below. It's like 800, 700, 900, depending on average, which major per ounce, which major gold dealer, gold producer you're talking about. So they're still below. However, there are certain mines in South Africa where the cost can be $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 a month, an ounce, and they still mine it. But my point is, even if it got to a point where they started to slow down their mining production, that wouldn't have a dramatic impact on the gold market, because as we saw the other day, and I can pull up that chart for you again. We saw the other day that the mining production over the last 10 years has exploded. So there's a lot of gold out there in the markets We've gone from, let's just see if I can get that chart for you. We've gone from about 2,600 tons a year to about 3,200. So even if there was a pullback of 10-20%, we'd only be back to where we were. Let's say, where were we? 10 years ago. Here, let me hear. I got it right here. So let's take a look at the gold production. Again, here's your gold production. And that's what you can see right there. And you can see now we were averaging below 2,600 from about 1995 to about 2005. But the last 10 years, that number you can see has gone straight up. So if we go back, if there is some type of price impact and the miners have to start slowing down or they close down some mines, we're still going to head, we're going to still be mining at what we had 10, 15 years ago. But then also consider gold demand is not met necessarily from current year supply. And here is what's been mined since 1840. You can see since the gold rush of 1848, you've had massive amounts of gold. So all of this gold, because they don't throw it away, it's not like silver where you lose a lot of it. You pretty much don't lose any of it intentionally. I mean, some people may lose and forget about silver and never even look for it. Most gold, if it's lost, even if it's thousands of feet below the sea, they figure out a way to go and get it. So there's 180,000 tons. Now, you don't know if these numbers are correct, but I think they're directionally correct. We do know what the mining numbers have been recently. So even if the miners were to slow down their production back to 10, 20 years ago's level, there'd still be gold being produced, and there's still this 180,000 tons available to trade. And as we've seen, a lot of gold demand has been met, not from physical gold demand, but from paper products and contracts. So I think there's enough gold out there. I don't believe the stories that there's going to be this shortage because there's going to be less gold mined because the price will go below. I don't think once you hit a magic number, mining stops. Because remember, they don't just shut down mines. If they shut down mines, it's hard to start them up again. So as we see in South Africa, they're still mining at a loss there. So I'm not counting on that happening, meaning that they stop producing and then the price has to ratchet back up to meet the miner's cost. It may not. Let's get back to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. So we saw the July withdrawals were lower than most years, recent years. They're about the same, 135. They just weren't the 285 tons that we've had in the past. And I showed you how since 2013 we had big increases. But let's take a look now at annual withdrawals. And there we go. Biggest year was 2015. It's coming up on your screen, or at least it should be. There it is. Let me get it centered for you. Ah, there it is. Okay, so you can see 2015, 2,596 tons was the biggest year. I think we did look at this chart. We looked at it and we saw how they're over 2,000 tons, mostly over 2,000 tons since 2013. And currently we're at 1,176. So the question you might be asking is, how will this year shake out versus other years? Are we way below? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Well, I've done that chart. Through July, over the past 10 years, our survey says, let's see. And are you there yet? Let's see if you're there. You're not there yet. Well, I've pulled up the chart and it's not showing, I don't think, on yours. But in any event, I'll tell you what it is. For some reason, it's not showing up. Through July, we have 1,176 tons withdrawn. Last year, through 2017, we had 1,129 tons withdrawn. So we're ahead of last year. And through 2016, there was only 1,091 tons withdrawn. So this year, the gold withdrawals are ahead of the pace of 2017. They're ahead of the pace. Oh, looks like they've shown up now. Ahead of the pace of 2016 and ahead of the pace of 2014. So this year, is on pace to be the third strongest year of Shanghai gold withdrawals. And it's an important number to follow, and a lot of this gold is sourced, as I mentioned, through Hong Kong. I don't know. I know that they say that China produces the world-leading amount of about 450 tons of gold a year. Obviously, that stays in China. I don't know where all the gold is sourced that ends up on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, but you can see that the Shanghai Gold Exchange, obviously in 1 year, delivers more gold than the People's Bank of China says that they have on their balance sheet. So a lot of gold in China is within the Shanghai Gold Exchange trading system. A lot of it's probably in other banks, sovereign wealth funds, and so on. All right, well, let's take a look. I wanted to update because I haven't done that chart in 2 months. I'll put them on the website tomorrow. You can check them out. You can also check out all the archives of the Shanghai Gold Exchange. I've been tracking this for about 5 years. You can go check out all the old charts. I used to do it monthly. In the last year or so, every now and then I miss a month. Oh, and also we should, while we're on gold demand, talk about the U.S. Mint. The U.S. Mint is not a significant indicator of gold demand at all. I mean, even in the biggest year, the U.S. Mint sold 2 million ounces of gold. Mostly it sells less than 1 million. It's not significant at all. Silver's not very significant. It's a little more significant on a comparative basis, but it isn't. But what's interesting to note, and I wanted to pull this up, is hooray for silver. Silver Eagles so far in the month of August are at 1.18 million, which is the first time they've been over 1 million since January. And August Gold Eagle sales are 13,500. But the Buffaloes are outselling the Eagles this month, which is interesting. But these are small amounts. They are, buddy, spit in the bucket in overall gold demand. But I do view them as indicative of sentiment and retail demand. So 18,000 American gold Buffaloes sold so far this August. All right, let's take a look at some of our questions that we may have, mate. All right, then, good day. From Australia ahead, we've covered Carl Joseph DeMarco's comments. Dr. Modesto, there are other mobs besides the Italian one. Yeah, one theory is that Trump is laundering money for the Russian oligarchs. I would think that if there's any Russian connection to Trump, that it would be not through governmental, probably not through governmental channels. And also, I don't know what the government could have done for Trump. They did have these Russian troll farms. It's not like, if you look at how the campaign was conducted, we know that no votes were changed. Russians generally don't have an influence on what they say to make people want to change their vote. Clearly, Trump, first of all, Trump didn't even win the popular vote. It's obvious why he won. He won in the Electoral College, and he won in places where, while it was shocking that he won, but it's understandable how he won Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania by narrow margins, because he went there and he did pitch something that was different. And clearly it's also obvious that Trump appealed to what you call your working class Democrats, traditional Democrats. That's clear. He won those people over. And I just don't see how the Russians could have done anything to make people either want to vote for Trump. And when they say that they came up with the name Crooked Hillary, I don't know. Trump comes up with 1,000 names for everybody. I'm not sure. And her collapsing on 9/11, there were so many things that happened. Hillary really did not campaign with the same vigor as Donald Trump did. And she was not a dynamic candidate. So it doesn't make me scratch my head and say, if I scratch my head and say, how did Trump win? I don't come up with Russia. I come up with the whole populist thing. I come up with the winning in certain states that he wasn't that normally Democrats would win, but I can understand how they won it. I'm not confused about how he won, and it doesn't lead me to think Russia. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have Russian ties, but I don't think he has I don't think the government helped him win the presidency. ASMR people. Though it has little impact on gold price, I wonder if Russia has a large amount of gold per monetary base. Well, no. They have 18% of their foreign reserves are in gold. That is not the highest. Kazakhstan has 43% of the reserves in gold. And if you're interested, let me see if I can find a chart. I have gold reserves per capita. Let me see if I can find that for you. You'll be very surprised who's got the most gold per people. Let's see if it's here. There it is. Gold reserve per capita. I got the top 20 here. Let's see. All right. Actually calculated all this, and our survey says the winner is, let's see when it comes up on your screen here. The winner is Switzerland. I don't know if you're seeing that. Switzerland actually has almost 4 ounces of gold per person. You know, in the world, I'm going to give you another, and I calculated this too. In the world, there it is. Switzerland, 3.94. Lebanon, not a big country, not a lot of people. They have 1.5 ounces of gold per person. I know this isn't the same as the monetary base, that question that you asked, but I do want to show you this. So there's about 7.5 billion ounces of gold, supposedly above ground, and that equals about 0.79 ounces of gold per person. So there is not enough gold in the world for everyone to grab themselves an ounce. And you can see Italy, very high, Germany, France, Portugal, Netherlands, Austria, and United States. These are per capita gold reserves by country, assuming that their central bank numbers are correct. This is not per capita gold that's in the country. So India clearly would be in this chart, but they're not, because Indian central bank only has 557 tons. This is by central bank. Now, Switzerland used to have about 8 ounces per person. They used to have over 2,000 tons. They sold 60% of the gold when they joined the IMF. But you can see on this chart that Kazakhstan, their central bank, is moving on up in the rankings there. I haven't updated this chart. They're probably up near the United States now on a per capita basis. All right, let's get back to our questions. Is there any threshold amount that China, Russia produce or import that would start getting you concerned? Or is this an impossibility in view of massive money printing? When you say concerned, you mean like excited that this is going to be a game changer? No. First of all, China does not have the world's largest gold reserves. They're just doing a good job of maximizing what they have. Russia probably has greater reserves, but they just don't produce as much. Annual production, to see each year when they add gold, it only adds a small single-digit percentage to the overall gold stocks. So they'd have to produce like 10 times more than they are for it to even show up on the radar screen. So I don't think that there is an amount. The amount that is, I wouldn't say it's concerning, that is definitely worth following, and those are the gold inflows. The two biggest supply demand in the physical market to me are how much gold flows into China and how much gold flows into India. Those are by far the biggest numbers. And even with those big numbers, we've seen the last 10 years massive amounts of gold flowing into those countries. We have not seen the price increase. Fun fact about yuan exchange in the mainland, when I was getting 6.2, 6.3 per US dollar, says Carl Joseph DiMarco. In LA, the same yuan was 8.25 and 8.4. That tells you something, and that's when you can find a place at. Yep. Always change your RMB before leaving China. Yep. And there's also an Irish mob in construction, New York. You could probably look there too. Sure, you can find, but this is not, but remember, I actually think it's a huge mistake that they went after Trump on Russian collusion. They could have attacked him on policy. While he was running, they could have looked into his background more. They didn't do it. They've put the whole ball of wax on Russian collusion. I think it's a mistake. See, the other problem with the Russian collusion is Russia hasn't been historically what Democrats think or the country thinks is like the worst thing. That, if you remember what Obama said to Romney is, the 80s called and they want their foreign policy back. That was a widely held view that Russia was not the quote enemy. And they've tried to like drum up Putin as the boogeyman when most people don't even know who he is. So it wasn't like they tapped into some groundswell anti-Russian, anti-Putin frenzy. They had to create it, and they don't really have much there. Peak gold, yeah, it could be. Yes, Dr. Medesco Esquire. It could be. I'm not saying that they're not going to decline in gold production. What I'm saying is, over the next few years, even if gold production declines and we don't hit 3,200 tons every year anymore, and the price of gold drops, it doesn't mean we're running out of gold, because you saw from that chart how much gold has been produced in the last 25, 30 years. The price of diesel goes through the roof, that will massively raise mining costs. Sure. But again, if we lose a 10, 20% decline, if we get a 10, 20% decline in mining production, that doesn't mean it's game over and there's no more gold left in the world. It just means less new gold is coming onto the market. Yep, peak oil scare, never seen to materialize, vanishing forest resources. Yep. All right, let's see what else we got here. Looks like the scrolling is working, at least the chat is working. Violette. When will we have peak tinfoil hat conspiracy theories? I don't know, but I think there's been a Smaulgld mug conspiracy theory. I think they're disappearing. I don't have many left, so if you want a Smaulgld mug, I will ship them out tomorrow. That is the Smaulgld Classic and the Smaulgld Super Classic mugs. They're always a crowd favorite. You know the mugs are valuable. You've seen the video, 18 reasons to buy and hoard mugs. They will never go to zero. And just to keep you honest and knowing which one is which, the one on the left is the Smaulgld Super Classic mug, and the one on the right is the Smaulgld Classic mug. Both of those you can order directly from the Smaulgld website. Come straight to Smaulgld headquarters. I get the order. I pack it up. Tonight I will put in a free Smaulgld Game Changer eraser. I'll ship it out tomorrow with a note. And you should get it probably by Monday, if not by Saturday. I send them usually priority mail, insured shipping. Now, if you want any other Smaulgld products like the Smaulgld To Go mug, or you want to get the espresso mug, they're available at the Smaulgld store. Now, you do help out the site when you do this. Remember, I don't have any ads on here, and I don't have a subscription model, and it is a nice way of helping out the site. I do appreciate when people support the site, either by becoming patrons. I have a nice dozen patrons. Very grateful for those. And if you'd like to become one, I'd be grateful if you joined. And also you can pay PayPal or donate via PayPal, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. All right, enough for the advertisement. Let's get to the rest of the... Look, I didn't play the 18 reasons why you should buy a Smaulgld mug. Might do that tomorrow. All right. Yep, Trump and Hillary puppet. Well, that's possible. Walden Tree is putting forth Trump and Hillary are puppets of the same master, who also control most countries, including Russia and China. Politics is literary theater. I give some credibility to that theory, but I think it's not black and white. I think there's no way that there's one monolithic powers that be, and I think there's a lot of gray area, or there's a big difference in what you would call elites. There are some elites that want one set of priorities and another one that want another. I wouldn't say that Trump and Hillary are identical, and that if Hillary was president, things would be different. I do think there is a difference, but I'm not discounting the fact that Trump isn't necessarily... it could be an illusion that he's all for the people, but I don't know. And these are some of these. I stay away from these topics because it's very hard to know, and people insist they know that Trump is this or Trump is that or Hillary is this and Zionist and Rothschilds. I can't get into that because I can't apply real logic to it, and people insist they know what's going on, and I leave that to the other channels. All right. Oh, there died your question. Bogus fiat. I need some gold buffaloes. Well, from the Smaulgld links that I have. I can't post them here. YouTube doesn't allow it. But on the Smaulgld site or below other YouTube videos, you can compare pricing and shipping. If you have made your investment decision, it's not investment advice, but you can go to those links and compare pricing and shipping at SD Bullion, Money Metals Exchange, and Golden Eagle Coins, and you can pick out your buffaloes and buy that way. And if you do buy, Smaulgld gets a small commission. Wasn't intending on pitching that, but someone mentioned it. Can't let an opportunity go by. All right. So no connection through Israel to Russia. Could be. Again, these are types of things that I don't get involved because I don't know. And people can speculate, and there's plenty of channels that do that speculation. All right. The media says she'll win by 95%. I think that was Silver. Nate Silver was saying that. But Trump did win. Then the media wonders why we don't trust him. Well, that's true. And it is clear to me. See, that's why I don't buy into the full thing that Trump is part of it, because I've never seen, no one has seen this, that every day on TV, every channel other than Fox News just trashes and smashes Trump, no matter what he does, no matter what he says. It is a feeding frenzy from the Morning Joe to MSNBC to CNN. Brennan, the so-called deep state. It'd have to be quite an act for all of them to gang up on him. Not sure that's the case, but I'm open to it. All right. Who has the highest Smaulgld mug to currency ratio? Well, I have to say, I have a very wide spread. No one has bought more than one mug. That's very interesting. So it is a very egalitarian group of people who own the dozens of mugs that have been shipped out and are still being or in transit right now. But no one has 2 mugs, 3 mugs. In fact, no one even owns a classic and a super classic mug. I did have one subscriber threatening to buy a set of the classic mugs because his roommates would tend to steal his best mugs, and he was going to sprinkle some Smaulgld classic mugs to make sure they didn't take his super classic mug, but that has not happened. I do believe the U.S. has the highest Smaulgld mug ratio. Yes, but I have shipped to the United Kingdom, I have shipped to Australia, and I have shipped to Canada. But yes, the U.S. has the highest concentration. California has the most, and that costs me the most to ship there, and I lose money on the shipping because it's free shipping in the continental USA. I think Florida is probably next, Ohio, Texas, but I think California might even have a dozen. So California is definitely in the lead. But remember, California is the largest state. So California is Smaulgld paradise. I agree with dueling elites. The house is sewed in bed with Ross. I don't know. Yeah, there has to be. Because if you think about human nature, even in a even in a oligopoly where you have, well, make the easiest, I can make you the easiest way to understand it. The mafia, when they had the 5 families. Yes, they were all in on it, but they definitely disagreed. And once in a while, like with Joe Colombo, they broke ranks. So clearly, when you have something global, even bigger than the mafia, there's no way they all walk lockstep. Absolutely not, because they all have personal interests that may not be aligned with interests that the others have. So there's no way that everybody is all acting as the elite. Wow, there you go. I did just get that order. And do put it in the pile. You can hear me getting the, which one did you get here? Carl Joseph DeMarco bought he bought a classic. A classic mug, which means I've got to open it and get his eraser. Where's the erasers? There they are. Carl Joseph DeMarco, you have tonight only a mug with eraser will be shipped out in the morning from Smaulgld headquarters. All right. Dr. Demandesco, how many factions of the elites do you think, at least 2 with subfacts? I don't know. All I know is that people that have power will work with other people with power, but there's no way they can all agree, and there has to be factions and sub-factions. And I think, you know, the United States isn't a block. I think there's competing interests within the United States. Now, someplace like China, I don't think they have competing interests. I think the government controls everything. They consolidate their power. Probably same thing with Russia. But you see, Russia works with China, works with Iran, but maybe they also work with the United. Who knows? It's just too much to keep track of, and it's hard to keep track of because you don't know. All right. Dr. Modesto, winning money is better than earning it. It's a real rush. All right. Look at the way Trump was bragging when he screwed Merv Griffin. I don't remember that. All right. Well, that about does it for tonight. Make sure you join us each and every night at 8 o'clock. And remember to go to the Smaulgld site tomorrow. By the way, I also just opened up an account on a thing called BitTube. I think Brother John had a video he was talking about how he's leaving YouTube. I'm not leaving YouTube, but I am spreading my stuff all over the place because you never know what might happen with any of these platforms. So you can check me out on BitChute, Minds.com, Twitter, Facebook, Gab, Steemit, and now BitTube. And may the best platform win. That's how I look at it. So thank you very much, and thank you, Carl Joseph DeMarco, for your order. I'll get that out tomorrow with the other orders. And we'll see you tomorrow. All right.